Hello, welcome. This is Mira with HSP Holistic, where we help highly sensitive women who are midlife plus creating an autonomous stream of income that is nervous system friendly and lifestyle forward. And today we're talking with Rachel Gadiel. Welcome, Rachel. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Mira. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, so we met on Substack, and I'd like to start by describing what Substack is. When I tell people I'm on Substack, I find that a lot of people actually haven't heard of Substack, although it has really been picking up steam. It's basically a writer's platform, it's a newsletter platform, and it continues to expand. So now there's the option to have a podcast on there, there's an option to have video on there, which is what we're doing right now. And also, just a great community. I'm finding that there's a lot of legacy media coming over, so they have that autonomy and that freedom to write what they want and how they want it. And so I'd love to hear about your process of joining Substack because you've had some incredible growth on there. So tell us, like, what happened to decide, like, I'm going to do it, I'm going to start writing consistently on Substack, and how that's been for you.
Yeah, so I guess I've always loved writing. In my previous business, well, before I even started my business was essentially born through a blog and through my love of writing and just sort of sharing on that sort of platform online. And I was really, I guess, over some of the social media platforms. I just really didn't want to be on there anymore, especially being an HSP, being an introvert. Like, it's not really what I would gravitate towards. So I just decided I'd fa sort of found a few people on Substack. Your account was one of them, and I followed you, and I just saw that there was a lot of HSPs who were on the platform, and I was like, oh, this could be really awesome. And just sort of started following a few people in their writing. And I had for a long time wanted to share about my experiences as an HSP, my a lot of my struggles being in a like a career. I guess the first post that I wrote was really about how HSPs are not designed for the 9 to 5. And that's been sort of the premise for my Substack is just sharing my experiences and misalignment through the sort of traditional career paths, and then sort of sharing my experiences on how I've sort of been able to redesign or reinvent my career that really supports my HSP and my true nature. And yeah, I was just I sort of wanted to start. It was sort of more of an experiment, I would say. I wanted to obviously share my thoughts and share my lessons that I've learned along the way, but just sort of really had no idea how it would turn out, whether people would resonate with it or connect with it. But it turns out they did, and it's been so amazing to connect with so many other HSPs who've gone through the same thing or similar experiences. And I honestly have been a little bit blown away. Like it's been, yeah, incredible. Just sort of the feedback that I've had and people sharing how they can totally relate. And so, yeah, I think it's such a nice community, especially, in comparison to platforms like Instagram, which I really just don't like. Substack, I've just found, I don't know, it's just a really nice community where people support each other, and especially if you prefer longer form content, which I really do. Like, I'm not one for like shorts, like Instagram and all the like TikTok and all those sort of platforms. It's really just about that sort of short form clips of content, and I prefer to go much deeper into content, or like, ideas and thoughts, just where you can feel like you can, I guess, share more ideas and that you just can't get across in like an Instagram post. So yeah, that's been my experience with Substack, and yeah, really love it. I've been loving getting back into writing again. So yeah, it's just been, yeah, a lot of fun.
Yeah, it looks like it. You really light up as you talk about it. So, what's one tip that you think, a strategy that you've used, or a way you're working with Substack that's been effective for you that might be a great tip for somebody who's interested in growing a Substack?
I guess, well, I honestly didn't go in with like a particular strategy, only that I knew what subject I was going to be writing about. And
Mhm.
with that total focus in mind, I think and like, this was just what I have sort of learned, but I don't know, like, as I said, I'm not really like strategizing too much about it, but what I found that potentially may have impacted my like sort of how it's sort of gone on the platform is sticking to a niche, sticking to a specific topic, um, and just basically like using that as a sticking point. I've seen a lot of Substacks that sort of have a lot of different types of content, and I see the ones that do really well are the ones that have like a niche. And like, this is, I guess, why I was sort of apprehensive in the beginning to launch a Substack, because I was like, oh, I don't think anyone's going to be interested because what I'm talking about is very niche. Like, I'm literally talking about HSPs in their careers and designing a work life that aligns with them. And I'm like, oh, is this too specific? But I actually think that has been what has helped me because it's been so specific.
Mhm.
And yeah, so that's probably one tip I would say is just to figure out what you want to talk about, and just be really consistent in who you're talking to, and creating content for that person and understanding what their sort of what solutions you can provide them through their content.
Yeah, digging one deep well and having deeper conversations. Like that's really what Substack is about. And it feels so much more cozy and friendly and supportive than, like you were saying, other social
Mm,
media channels. I think one thing that holds people back from getting out there on their own and starting their own business is the thought of having to use social media. And you really
yeah.
don't have to use it at all, right? We can find these other ways to connect with people in a really meaningful and deep way. So thank you for sharing that. I think that's really a nice way to describe what Substack is. So there's a lot of gems in there, right? Like having deeper conversations, having a smaller community of people who are really engaged versus just this flyby, context switching from this thing to that thing, which is really disruptive to our piece, right? So we
Yeah.
wanted to talk about just some business strategies that you found for yourself and that you're now supporting people with, and really that the traditional productivity hacks that are out there just really don't work for someone who's highly sensitive, and that it's not so much about time management as it is about energy management, right? So, but before we dive into that, I'm really interested to hear your story about discovering that you are a highly sensitive person, because the term HSP, or highly sensitive person, has only really been defined or articulated since the mid 90s. So some people find out early on in their lives, some people find out more further along into their adulthood. And then when you did find out, what did that do for you? How did that shift your self-perception?
Yeah, so I guess I found out I must have been in my early to sort of mid 30s, I think. So quite late in the game, to be honest. And this was like after I'd gone through all the struggles in my career. And it had really, I think, being HSP career has been the biggest area where it's sort of impacted my life, and especially around energy management. I guess I first sort of discovered I was an introvert, and it was when I was doing a training. I was actually studying to become a health coach, and we did like the Myers-Briggs test. And I was like, oh, I'm an introvert. Oh, this makes so much sense. And I thought this sort of course that I was doing sort of was really helped me sort of go on this like personal growth journey. And that's sort of what kick-started it. And then it was through that. Not that long afterwards that I started connecting the dots and hearing about this concept of an HSP, highly sensitive. And the more I sort of went down that rabbit hole, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is exactly me. So yeah, I'm an introvert, which means I get energy from being alone in solitude. And HSP, I think, just adds another layer on top of that.
Mhm.
Really prone to overstimulation, with a really, deep level of processing, internal processing. And so that means that I need a lot of white space, a lot of downtime. And I think in terms of what sort of impact it's had on me, it's helped me understand. I think get a lot of have. I think my first thought was it was just a relief, thinking, well, knowing that there was actually nothing wrong with me because I think I had sort of grown up, and especially when you get into the workforce, you sort of think there's something really wrong with you because you're not able to perform at the same level as everyone else. You don't have the energy to keep going. Like I would be spending my weekends. I would go to work sort of 5 days a week, and then I would need to recover like every weekend because I was that depleted. I had burnout multiple times, and like if I had time for leave, I wouldn't want to do anything. I would just wanting to be recovering, and I was constantly in that vicious cycle of going full speed and then needing so much downtime to recover. So, and I couldn't work out what was wrong with me.
Mm.
So that relief and knowing that, this is actually just how I'm wired. And there's been research to show that HSPs, they actually have a different wiring in their brain, like their neurotransmitters are very sensitive, and that's why we get so overstimulated. So it's actually like it's how your brain is wired. So I think just understanding that has, yeah, first relief and then understanding and acceptance, and then moving into practical ways on how I can make this work for myself and design a life that's going to, or a life and career that's going to work for me and honor my needs. And I think one of the misconceptions, and I felt this a lot, especially through family and friends who just didn't understand, was they sort of feel like you've made to feel like you're lazy, and because we just don't have that sustained energy level. And I think just realizing that you're not lazy. It's just you have a different way of working and being in the world. And once you sort of understand that, you can then make changes that really honor who you are. So yeah, that's kind of been my experiences of discovering being an HSP.
Yeah, and talk about the process of moving from corporate work to self-employment.
Mhm. Yeah, so I guess when around 2014, I had an opportunity um to go freelance. I had some sort of freelance opportunities to do some my background's in marketing. And so I had, yeah, just some people connections through people that I knew. I was able to do some freelance work. And so I left my full-time job and went full on into freelancing. And um, and I was living in Australia at this time. And yeah, so that kind of worked well. I did need to pick up some more contracting work along the way. So kind of this is like my very early stages of designing what is called like a portfolio career. So I had sort of multiple different income streams. I was doing some digital consulting. I had some freelance work. And I then started teaching as well. So I started teaching other people through other sort of education institutions about digital marketing. So I sort of had a few different income streams on the way. And then partway through that journey, I moved to San Francisco, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm like in a new country now and I don't know anyone. And I think when I was in Sydney, in my hometown, I had like a lot of, I guess, a network. And so that made it easier to, get these freelancing clients and freelance opportunities. But then I moved to America and I knew no one. So I had to rethink that strategy. And that's when I launched my website design studio. And started building that. I also did go back to job, like a full-time job, because it just wasn't sustainable, especially in the beginning. So I have gone back to full-time employment, actually more than once, like several times. And I think that's definitely been one of the challenges, is that it's not like a straight line for, figuring it out, and also balancing that with where you're at in your life. For me, that was sort of everything kind of flipped upside down because I moved countries, and now I've actually moved back to Australia. So, you kind of have to reinvent yourself depending on where you're at. So I think it's been a bit of a journey to figure that out, and I don't think you ever sort of fully arrive, but I guess now I'm in a position where I still take that portfolio career approach. I think that's one of the things I learned about, especially being an HSP, is that I really do like having stability. So for me, full time being a business owner doesn't necessarily work, because there is that a lot of uncertainty around it. So I prefer to have like a part-time job, or consistent work through a job or a teaching or something, and then layering sort of my different sources of income on top of that, and that seems to work pretty well for me. So yeah, I think it's sort of being an ever evolving journey of of understanding how you work best, what you need, and then yeah, sort of redesigning it around that.
Yeah, that's so important, I think, for people to hear how unique each person's journey is, and that it's not a clean break from like, I'm leaving corporate and now I have an autonomous income stream. It's a process. There's oftentimes bridging where you're holding one thing and building something else,
Yeah.
or like you said, layering in multiple streams of income in what you refer to as a portfolio business. And so it opens up people's minds to consider all the different ways they can put together the resources they need to live a quality of life. It doesn't necessarily have to be a single salary from an incredibly draining job. It can be part-time work plus some autonomous work and that kind of thing. So thank you for sharing that, because I think it's interesting for people to hear like, oh, I hope people are getting some ideas like, oh, I could do this, or I could do that, or I could teach something on the side as well. So let's get
Yeah.
into the topic that we wanted to talk about,
Yeah.
was now that you are doing some of your like own work and you're putting together these things, how are you, rather than focusing on time management, focusing on energy management? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, so I guess in terms of energy management as HSPs, we don't have, our energy is finite. So when we wake up in the morning, we have a limited supply of energy, and I kind of liken it to a battery. So every sort of interaction that we have, every even if we're going out, it's like, say you're going to a shopping mall or something, that energy or like environment will deplete your energy. So energy management is really key for HSPs in order to help us be productive and get, or do the work that we need to do. So, and I also think, the traditional sort of method we've been taught is really around how you can pack as much as you can into a day or into a specific period. But for HSPs, that just doesn't work. We instead need to focus on our energy. And this begins with understanding how you work best. So when you wake up in the morning, what I sort of recommend is doing like an energy log, or just sort of tracking your energy and learning to understand what times of the day are you most productive? Do you prefer having slow mornings, or do you prefer to get right into work as soon as you wake up, and maybe you have like a 3 hour spurt where you're most productive in the morning, and then after lunch maybe you have a dip in your energy or something like that. For me personally, I know that I prefer a slow morning, easing into the day, and then I actually don't start getting productive until probably around mid afternoon, or sort of lunchtime, mid afternoon. That's when I'm most productive and I can sort of get so much done. And I think it's such a flip in our mindset, because I know personally I get so much, can get a whole day's worth of work done in like 3 hours if I am working at my peak energy times versus, if I have like an 8 hour day, I won't be productive throughout that period. There's only going to be a small window where I have that high productivity. So as much as I can, I really try and structure my days around like when I work best. And I also love the concept of sort of batching tasks related to your energy. So, for example, high energy tasks where you need a lot of focus and creativity, say, where you're figuring out a strategy or you just need that high focus time, you'd want to allocate to like your high most productive window, and then sort of looking at like more medium level energy tasks, which may be you know video editing or something, or I don't know, like replying to emails.
Admin kind of things, the
Admin,
systems.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that would be sort of your medium. When you have medium energy, you could allocate those to whatever window. Maybe you allocate an hour a day where you focus on those tasks. And then you have your low energy tasks where it may be like, I don't know, choosing images or uploading content.
Email.
Yeah, email could be definitely be one of those, but saving those for when you are really low energy.
Yeah.
And that can really just sort of figuring out when you work best, when's your sort of productivity window. Also thinking about social times, like are you feeling more social in the mornings or are you feeling more social in the afternoons? Because that may be when you want to have calls with clients or going to networking events or whatever it is, and sort of fitting that into your day as well. So yeah, just thinking, yeah, how do you work best? How does your energy flow through the day? And then sort of thinking about your tasks in terms of high energy, medium, and low energy. And rather than, doing those low energy tasks when you know you're most productive, saving those for when you have like no energy, can just help you get so much more done. So yeah, that's kind of how I approach it. And it's honestly been such a game changer for me. And I think it takes a lot of, yeah, you have to sort of be willing to go against what all the traditional productivity advice will give you. And yeah, I'm such a fan of making your time count versus trying to pack more into the day.
Yeah, our energy is a precious resource and we don't want to waste it on busyness, quote unquote, and we really have to work against strong societal norms. This whole 9 to 5, 5 days a week is not
Yeah.
how any human bodies work. That's how factory workers have worked, and we just transplanted this into the information economy, which is what we're living in now. So when we're doing creative work, when we're connecting with others, nobody can really sustain that for 8 hours a day. And I think it just is another reason that we feel defeated. It's another reason we wonder what's wrong with us. It's another reason we
Mhm.
think, oh gosh, maybe I am lazy, versus like really understanding that you really have 2 to 3 hours a day of real focused productivity. And if you can, like you're saying, keep the most valuable work for those 2 to 3 hours, you're doing amazing, you know? So to not expect of yourself to be productive for 4 or 6 or certainly not 8 hours a day, I think is really going to help people feel like, oh, I can do this and I'm not expected to do more because it's
Yeah,
unrealistic. And then that's what leads to burnout. That's what makes it
totally.
unsustainable is because we're trying to work beyond our energetic capacity. And
Yes.
that's just like, so that's why I always say, like, sometimes the best business strategy is to go spend the afternoon in the woods, taking a
Hmm.
hike, or to take a nap, because that's how you recharge and then have that precious energy available again to get back and do your work. So my typical daily routine is I like a slow morning as well. I'm not a real morning person. My most productive time is usually between 9 or 10 in the morning until about 1 or 2. And then from 2 to 5, it's like I have to go like take my dog for a walk or take a nap or go work in the garden or do something physical because my brain is like, it's down. And then I have a little spurt of energy again, maybe at 8 o'clock at night. So if you're watching this, we would love to hear from you. Like, when is your most productive time of day? Are you aware of that time now? Or do you want to do, like Rachel's suggesting, a little bit of an energy audit and just notice, set your timer for every 30 minutes and be like, what's my energy? Am I a 10? Am I focused? Or am I just like, oh, falling asleep at your desk? And then you can sort of schedule your day and your routine the way that you've been describing. So if you want to put in the chat, if you're a morning person, if you have late night bursts of energy where you're doing your most creative work at midnight, and we're also made wrong for that too. Like the 5 a.m. club is great if you happen to have the chronotype of an early morning person. And so in the tribe, just like 20% of humans are highly sensitive, we need sensitive people in the tribe because we need different roles to help the tribe survive and function, historically. And the same is true with chronotype. If some people are early risers, some people are up late, so there's less time throughout that 24-hour period where everybody in the tribe is asleep. It's safer, So if you happen to
Yeah.
be a morning lark or in the 5 a.m. club, somehow our society values that more than
Mhm.
being a night owl. But that's just like being a highly sensitive person, people have different chronotypes. And so when we understand that about ourselves and can honor it and can build our life around it, we're going to be a lot happier, a lot healthier, and ultimately more productive as we want to be, not as productive as the capitalistic machine thinks we need to be, right?
Exactly, exactly. And I will say it takes like a lot of courage to do that and to make that shift, because not everyone is doing it. So 100%, it's really game changing. And what you were saying before about that white space, I think that is so important, especially for HSPs, to create that space in your day, not feeling like you have to have back-to-back meetings or you have to be fully productive, every minute of every day. Just if you sort of have that buffer time in between tasks, going for a walk in the afternoon, taking your dog out, reconnecting with nature. These are all energy givers for HSPs. So the more we can integrate that white space in our day as well, can help us show up as our best selves. So yeah, just wanted to add that on there as well, how important that white space is, for us to thrive.
Absolutely. Unstructured free play.
Yes, love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so
Well,
important.
so let us know how we can find out more about your work. What kind of projects are you into right now that you're excited about? And what's a next step somebody can take with you?
Yeah, so if you're an HSP and keen to learn more about designing a life that honors your true nature, check me out on Substack Quietly Thriving, which is Rachel Gadiel at .substack.com. I think that's the URL. And then you can also, if you're interested in working with me through my website and marketing studio, you can find me at everbloomstudio.com. So yeah, have a true portfolio career. So yeah, they're the best ways to connect with me.
That's great. And we'll leave links for viewers also in the comments or in the description as well. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us. It's really been fun to just see what other people are doing and how they're doing it and the wonderful resources that you're providing highly sensitive people so they can have that portfolio career, so they can have a lifestyle that their work supports rather than trying to constantly be accommodating a work habit or a business that doesn't support their lifestyle. So thank you for being here. Anything
Thank
else you
you.
want to share or mention before we sign off?
I guess just knowing that you're not alone if you're feeling like you're misaligned in your work life. Just know, yeah, that you're not alone. There's so many other people who are feeling the same way, and there is a path that you can make work for you. And yeah, just knowing that, yeah, you can absolutely design a life, a work life, and that works for you on your own terms.
Beautifully said.
Thank you so much, Mira. This has been so fun. I've loved chatting with you today.
Yes, thank you too, Rachel.